what you think is going on, which I won't agree or disagree. I'm kind of still like open-minded, like anything can happen. But I think we both agree this was a bioweapon.
Yes.
You're leaning more towards this was something aimed at the Chinese people.
Yes, with Americans as collateral damage.
And where do you think this originated, or what do you think spurred this to happen?
Well, we know that China is a threat to American hegemony. And, the popular idea is that this virus escaped from a level 4 bioweapons lab in Wuhan. But I believe in something, I hate to admit this, I believe in something much more nefarious. I think the deep staters, the powers that be in our country, and I think I know how they did it. A lot of people have been reading this, even though it's not very common yet. The world military exercises were held in Wuhan in October, 14 days after they left. And by the way, there were 300 American soldiers participating. 2 weeks after they left, which happens to be the average incubation period, this virus turned up in Wuhan. And we know that it's a weaponized virus because we see the RNA strands that were put into this virus from HIV, from MERS, and from the SARS virus. There's no way this could have happened in nature. So somebody built it. There's no question about that. The question is who did and who unleashed this on the world. I'm afraid the powers that be in this country who want to destroy Trump's presidency, they want to eliminate China's threat to our hegemony. And by the way, there's a byproduct of this, which is a depopulation effort. We're going to end up, providing some solution to our Social Security elderly problem. And this sounds terrible, but this collateral damage to the American people, I believe, was a desirable byproduct for the people that are in power. And so the question is, for all of us, I think once we embrace that it's a bioweapon and not for nature, which, by the way, is contradicting what the CDC is telling us.
Well, it's just tough for people to accept that. I mean, let's be honest. Most people are living in la-la land. They're trying to figure out what Tom Brady is going to have for breakfast, or where he's going to, throw a football. So when you talk about a bioweapon, they can barely even comprehend it. They just immediately throw you out as some conspiracy kook. No, this is very real stuff.
Yeah. And I have nothing to gain by being here and putting myself out there. I've got a pretty good life, right? But I think truth is a powerful thing. We certainly aren't getting it from the mainstream media, and we aren't getting it from alternative media, except for you guys and a few other sources. And what is getting out there is being censored, which, by the way, is an indicator that we may be pretty close to the truth. So we got to embrace the idea that, and we know this, the laboratory in India who ended up being censored, they did the RNA analysis of this thing. It's a bioweapon. You can't get around that. And it's important to acknowledge that because it's very, very difficult to develop a vaccine for a bioweapon. So we got to come to terms with the reality, whether we're comfortable with it or not. And then what do you do with the information? Well, I'm trying to get to Trump to make him aware that this is not a non-event. This is a very nefarious act against him. He's following the lead of the CDC. Yesterday the president said, I'm a fan of his, right? I was supposed to see him on Friday night. He said that this will go away. That's a quote. Because he believes that the CDC is what they're telling him, which is that very few people are going to get this. 85% have very mild symptoms. And by the way, the reason I know the president believes him is he is still out shaking hands and putting himself in a public situation and exposing himself to this.
And by the way, what is the role of the lady that was Rosenstein's sister at the CDC? So I'm sure it's just one that we were just able to identify easily because there was a relation there.
Yeah.
Well, the crew can find it, but go on how Trump is going along with what the CDC is saying.
Yeah.
And again, that's why I'm sitting here just kind of like, I don't want to, it's not even a hedging my bet. I'm just not even ready to throw chips in the pot here because, as we already know, this virus it infects Asian people or people with a certain DNA, you know, more than say white people or other people that would live in America. So there's that aspect to it, which again is kind of like, well, then maybe I don't want to panic either, because if this is specifically designed to go after DNA that's, you know, common in China and every person, then that's like a major indicator of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, let me explain that to the audience. You know, we know that Harvard got into a lot of trouble with the Chinese government because they were over there sampling the DNA of thousands of Chinese people. The receptor site in the human body is primarily in the lungs. It is the.
You were saying it in the break.
Yeah, I said it in the break. It'll pop up in a second. The receptor site where this virus connects and infects people is with Asians has a 4.0 level in their body. The ACE2 receptor sites. There we go. With European people like us, it's 0.47, and with Africans, it's 0.40. There's a very mild outbreak in Africa, and I believe it's partly because this virus was designed to kill primarily Asian people. Now, the problem is it's going to kill a lot of Europeans and non-Asian people because it's still lethal. But that's one more evidence that it was designed as a bioweapon to attack China.
And, you know, now I'm thinking about something that I thought I remember, because it's breaking out in Italy. And if I remember correctly, actually, this could be something else that I'm remembering in my mind, but I think there's similar DNA with Italians and Asians. Like there's some connection there in the genealogy history.
I'm not sure about that, but let's talk about Italy for a moment. Italy is
maybe I'm just thinking about Italians invading a different country. I think that's what I'm thinking of now. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Italy is America in 3 weeks.